bringing up your wants and your needs are just as valuable as your partner's.
Yep.
And put yourself in their shoes too, right? Like if there's something that's bothering them, you'd want them to come and talk to you about it.
Yeah. Welcome to Love Stories, a relationship podcast for successful women, where we talk about love, dating, relationships, and how great love stories are made. Whether you're searching for the one, you're madly in love, or simply curious about romantic relationships, this podcast is for you. I'm Charlene Byars. Each week, you'll hear from women, couples, and experts, and all the ins and outs on how to create your own love story. I am so passionate about this subject, and I'm so excited to share all the things that you can apply to create a beautiful love story of your own. Cheers to great love. Welcome back to the Love Stories Podcast. I'm your host, Charlene Byars. Well, hello. Happy new week. For those of you who are new to this podcast and learning about me, hi, my name is Charlene, and I'm a dating and relationship coach for women. I help women learn how to date and have a great time getting to know high-value men. I help women find their husbands. I also work with married women who are wanting to deepen their connection with their husbands and themselves. I'm a feminine embodiment practitioner and a certified empowerment coach who specializes in dating and relationships. And as a coach who specializes in the matters of the heart, I know how important it is selecting a very good partner. It really transforms you. When I work with women and they are anxious and they have a partner who can be neglectful and they feel unseen and they're not getting that emotional support, it can affect all areas of your life. The truth is, you can try to soothe yourself, you can calm yourself, but I promise the impact of a loving and consistent partner is something that will do way more for you than even a therapy session. Healthy support from a human connection with your significant other is very powerful. And that's why who you choose for your life partner will determine your overall happiness. The person you decide to marry will play a part in every area of your life and your well-being. Who you choose and who you are with, it matters. And if you would like to learn more about dating and where to find high-value men, I would love for you to book a no-obligation love breakthrough call with me. I'm really looking forward to talk to you, and I'll make sure that I'll leave the link in the show notes. Let's talk about the tip of the week, which is switch to coffee dates for the first dates. Coffee dates are the key to finding love for high-value women who values their time and want to navigate the dating scene efficiently. High-value women are busy. They don't have time to go out to dinner or a show on a first date just with anyone. A high-value woman uses coffee dates as an interview, evaluating how she feels in a man's presence. It's a chance to see how he treats others, like the server, and how much of a gentleman he is. If you don't know a man and you're meeting him for the very first time, coffee dates for the first date is a vibe. What if you know within 5 minutes of meeting a man that you're not interested, and then you're stuck on a 2-hour dinner date that you have to fake your way through? So remember, the coffee date is for your benefit. I recommend scheduling 3 or 4 coffee dates weekly. Keep dates 30 to 40 minutes long. It's like a rapid-fire interview style, and you can really change your dating dynamics. From there, you can move on to dinner dates with men that you feel connected with. I hope you give this a try. I am so thrilled to welcome our next guest to the show today, Taylor Archer. Taylor Archer's journey began as the owner of a clothing boutique, where she discovered the art of making a brand stand out in a crowded market. Through years of innovative experimentation and strategic planning, Taylor transformed her passion for fashion into a mission to help small business owners elevate their social media, digital marketing efforts. Not only does Taylor excel in creating unique and compelling marketing plans for small and medium-sized businesses, but she also has lent her expertise to numerous large companies and celebrities. Taylor's wide-range passion include branding, social media, online advertising, SEO, and design. On a personal note, Taylor is married and is also a talented jewelry designer and owns Rad and Ray, a jewelry boutique here in Scottsdale, Arizona. One of the biggest takeaways that I took from Taylor, and there were so many, is that how she followed her intuition and didn't settle for a relationship that didn't align with her. This led her to meeting and marrying the man of her dreams. So with no further ado, Taylor Archer. Well, hello, Taylor. Oh, my goodness. No, seriously, I have been just over the moon excited for you to be on the show today.
No, sweet.
Seriously, because, when I think about this show and I think about what we represent, love stories and women and their journeys and all the good stuff, like you were like right up there for us.
Oh
like
my
you were
gosh.
like seriously, you were
so
right up there for
seriously.
No, seriously. And I was thinking about how I wanted to start today.
Yeah.
And I know that you are a successful jewelry maker, entrepreneur woman, which is amazing.
Thank you.
But how did truly choosing the right man to marry change your life?
Oh my gosh.
I know that's a big question.
That is a huge question to start with.
Yes.
In what ways did he not change it is a better question.
Wow.
My husband I met when I was 23.
Okay.
And I was working a more corporate job, and he is 6 years older than me, and so he was getting his master's at ASU. But I was still a baby. 23, I think 23. Look at a 23-year-old now. I'm like, you are in high school still pretty much. You're just so young, and was still really trying to find myself. And, I fell in love with him first because he was fun.
He was fun.
He was so fun. He, all of the guys that I dated before him didn't have the ambition that he did, and he was so driven and family oriented and would just brought out the best sides of me that we just partied a ton, and it was a blast. But growing up with him, I think you find yourself a lot now being in my 30s, like you find yourself a lot in your 20s.
Right.
And he taught me the value of having a partner that was a really good communicator, because I was not a good communicator. And I came from relationships that weren't built on a ton of communication. And so for him to really, hold my hand and be like, no, we're supposed to talk through these kind of things.
Yeah.
And he's my walking Xanax. I'm a ball of anxiety 24/7. And he literally is always here. He's always here. Fantastic. Which is the best. So he's changed my life in that way, the communication style. And literally I've never had somebody outside of obviously my family that's been such a big cheerleader and supporter and lending ear for the multiple businesses that I've started since being with him. And he's got so much faith and trust and values me in a way that I've just had never felt before.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. No, that's why, the reason I was asking that question, because I truly believe like who we choose to be our life partners, who we choose to marry is honestly going to make one of the biggest differences overall.
It's the biggest decision you will make in your entire life.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
So take me back then. So before you met your husband, when you grew up, tell me about your parents. Were your parents had a successful marriage or not so much?
Yeah, they definitely had a successful marriage. My parents have been together since they were 18.
Oh.
And came from nothing. We were, our family's from Wisconsin.
Okay.
And they met, my mom had my sister at 17. And so my mom was a single parent, and met my dad freshman year of college in a class that they were both taking. And they actually had gone to the same high school but didn't know each other.
Were you the firstborn?
No, my sister.
Your sister. Okay.
Yeah, but so my mom had my sister at 17. My parents started dating when my sister was 9 months old.
Got it. Okay.
And I came from nothing. I mean, my mom lived in welfare housing, was on food stamps. My dad went to college, ended up dropping out, and became really fascinated with computers. And, they got married 7 years into their relationship, and then I'm a twin. So had my brother and I like a year after that.
Okay.
And still we're like, my mom's a biologist. And
Okay.
so she did like benchtop science. And my dad was really into this IT thing, which was very new at the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's also kind of crazy. They dated for a long time for back then. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right? Like
then.
dating for 8 years before you got married was like unheard of then, I feel like. And they had a really long engagement. Anyway. But their love story is truly one of my favorite stories to tell because it just doesn't happen nowadays.
It doesn't happen.
They have defied all odds. I grew up very privileged. My dad worked his ass off. My mom worked her ass off. And they were both very independent people. Mm-hmm. My mom had to be because my dad traveled a ton when we were growing up. His company was based in California.
And she's raising kids.
And she's raising kids.
And working.
Yep. And working full time. Yep. And but they never missed a softball game. They never missed a dance recital, a football game. Their communication was great. Mm-hmm. And we grew up in a very fun, loving household. Mm-hmm. I gave a speech at my dad's retirement party earlier this year. And I was like, we literally grew up with rose-colored glasses on because our parents, their love seemed so perfect growing up, and they still are together and still are madly in love. And I grew up in a household where there wasn't fighting and screaming, and they were always on the same page and always made everything about family. And we had so much love in the household, which I think is just important and was something that I never questioned or never struggled with. Or I think sometimes coming from having friends that have come from broken households, that like, am I worthy of love? Conversation can come up a lot, but it was never a question that we wouldn't find our partner and find somebody great because we had great examples.
You had great examples. How do you think though? Let me ask you this. So what I've noticed, like sometimes when people grow up in like having their parents have a great relationship. Yeah. That also sometimes can play a factor in when you go out, your expectations.
Oh, yes.
Right? Like, I want to talk about that because so you have these expectations of like, well, that's all I've known. Yeah. I've only known, a man to show up. I've only known a relationship to communicate. I've only known blah, blah, blah. Right. And then you go out, right? Yeah. So was there pressure for you or what did you notice? Yeah. When you started yourself, growing up and dating guys, because not everyone's like that. Yeah, very true. How did that play a part in your romantic life?
I was kind of a late bloomer in the relationship world. I didn't get my first boyfriend till 16. I wasn't the last of my friend group, but definitely wasn't the first. Okay. I also think it probably stems from being a twin too, because I had a boy twin who was tall and jockey and big, and guys didn't want to mess with you because of your brother. But it was very much of you choose your partner and we will love them for who they are kind of thing. So my first boyfriend, I feel like I've always held men to pretty high standards. Yeah. But your first boyfriend, you don't know what you're doing. You don't know what you're doing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He's cute. He's in a band. I'll date him. Yeah. But I dated my first boyfriend from 16 to 21. Okay. Almost 22. Which again, that's that time frame. You grow so much during that time, right? Even 5, 6 years, whatever it was. But he was not driven at all. He was a year older than me, so 23, and had never had a job in his life, and we broke up.
Really?
Yeah.
Because you met him 16.
I met him when I was 16.
In high school.
In high school.
And then you go to college?
Yeah, we dated all through college. I broke up with him summer going into my senior year of college.
Wow. And how was that relationship, just, you being so young overall? Because did you think that was at some time, this is the man you're going to marry? Or were you just kind of just going with the flow?
I thought, we definitely talked about marriage. Okay. And I think the more I got into the relationship, the more I realized that this will not be a forever, but you're kind of in it for so long and you love his family so much and you're kind of like, well, let's kind of stick with it and see where it goes, whatever. And I feel like I never dated anybody else outside that. So it's I can change him. He'll change for me. You know what I mean? Right. And my parents never said a peep, even though I'm sure they were probably terrified is the wrong word because I don't want his little sister to listen to us and be oh, whatever. But kind of maybe we wanted more from you than what this was. But I never felt.
That's nothing against the guy.
No.
Everyone has, that makes sense. I love that you're really saying your experience and how it was for you.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I remember breaking up with him literally because I owned a clothing store with my sister on ASU's campus at the time. And so I was going to school full time. I was a makeup artist on the weekends. And then I had this clothing store, brick and mortar, that I was running. So I was so busy, had 2 jobs, still going to school full time. And I remember leaving for a trip to LA for work.
Okay.
And I said, when I come back, I was gone for 24 hours. When I come back, I want you to apply for 4 jobs. You don't need to have a job. You just need to apply for 4.
Okay.
And I came back and I was like, what jobs did you apply for? And he was like, well, I looked at a few. And I was like, you can go home. You can go home.
Was that it?
Yeah. And that was it. That was the last time I talked to him. And that was the end of, and I knew that, I mean, people always say that you end up marrying somebody like your dad. I am a daddy's girl through and through.
Okay.
My dad and I have a great relationship. And I was like, I need somebody more like my dad. I need somebody more driven. I need somebody who will truly hustle, because my dad has built this fairy tale life for not only himself, but our entire family. Yes. And I've had a great example growing up of like how far hard work will take you.
Right.
And so after that, I paired everybody up against my dad. And I remember going, yes. And I remember going, and it's even funny, it happened twice. Okay. I went on a couple dates with this other guy. And I remember telling my mom, I was like, he's great, but he like works at Starbucks. My mom was like, well, he's getting his PhD. So like, that's okay that he works at Starbucks. And the same thing happened with my current husband.
Really?
I was like, he's great, but he doesn't have a job. And I was like, he's in a full-time master's program. Like, it's okay for him to not have a job. Like, he has had a job in the past, but he doesn't have one right now. Like, he was a middle school special ed teacher. He worked in politics. Like, he's had a career and then took a 2-year pause so he can get his master's to then go get a better job. But I remember being like, he's really great, but... And it was just like something that was triggering for me. And now I'm like comparing everybody to my dad and wiring to work and work as hard as my dad did, which also, you know, can have its downsides too.
That's what I'm saying. I think how we grow up sometimes really can play that part.
For sure.
To play that part in the expectations. Or what we are really wanting or what we're not wanting.
Or we're not wanting.
Yeah. So you're in this relationship with this guy. Yeah. And overall, like you said, the guy, there wasn't necessarily wrong with the guy, but what really you knew as a woman. Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah.
You know, like that you knew, like, I needed more. I wanted more.
Yeah.
And that does play back because of your father.
For sure. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're with this guy, and then obviously you tell him, no, it's just not, I mean,
we're done.
What was that like?
It was, honestly, I'm a wildly emotional person. Okay. I cry at the drop of a hat. I cried everything. It was the least emotional I've ever been. I also think I was really tired. It was like, I used to do these turnaround trips to LA where it was like 24 hours, whirlwind, you sleep for 3 hours, like, and so I was so exhausted. I came home, it was midnight, and he was just like at my house, and I was like, I'm done with you, please leave. And I literally like said that, and he sat there and cried and was trying to talk to me, blah, 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 and I fell asleep while he was trying to argue with me because I was like, I'm exhausted. And then he woke me and said, I can't believe you're doing this. Yeah. And I was like, you just need to leave because I have nothing to say to you. And I'm so tired. And like, it was a very like, you could tell that I was just done. You were done. And then I'd been done for a while. Yeah.
You must have been, because I mean, if you are already, like I'm already noticing, because you're a little ambitious woman. That's fantastic. They're a little entrepreneur from early on.
Yeah.
And if you have like certain goals in your life and you have a certain vision for your life and work hard, you know, do this and do that. If your partner is the opposite of that,
right?
How is that really going to work?
Yeah. And I think also stems from being a twin. I'm my mom will tell you, I am very fair as equal in my eyes. Mm-hmm. And like, I'm busting my butt to try to provide this life or future for us that we will have together, and you are not pulling your weight. You aren't. I don't see you busting your butt. Both of my parents worked so hard to give us this dream life that we had growing up, and like it was not fair nor equal. So that was tough.
Well, you know, I think that's fascinating that you're saying that, because, you know, again, a lot of us women, we don't like allow ourselves to really stop and feel like, is this really what I want? Yeah. And then we end up settling.
Yeah, exactly.
We really end up settling. Yeah. But there was something about you, you're like, that's not going to be fair for me. Like that's, and being your first boyfriend, that's a big deal, girlfriend.
Yeah.
And you were with him for a long time.
It's
not like, it was just a high school little boyfriend.
No, yeah. This was like we grew up and really grew up together. It was like,
okay, so
22,
so you end up with this guy.
Yeah.
So then, what was life for you like then? What did you think about like when it came to dating? Yeah. Did you go out and like what was your experience after that?
For sure, yeah, and it was I had never been on dating apps before because I met my high school boyfriend pre-dating apps. Okay. And so it's like dipping my toe into that for the first time. Because
you're how old now?
At 22.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, nice. But I met my husband at 23, so I didn't really have like that big of a
you had a
gap,
moment.
but it was a year, maybe a little over a year.
That's good.
Which was plenty of time.
Yeah.
Plenty of time to get sick of first first dates.
Yes, yes.
And you meet some weird people on the internet, man. I had horror stories. I had great stories. I literally everything in between. And so it was my senior year of college. And so it was just like a wild, like, let's party, let's just, and I had to learn a lot about myself, right? Because I didn't know what I wanted in a partner because I only knew what I didn't want in a partner, right? And there was some great things about my ex too that I adored and still personality traits that I love. But I, went on a ton of first dates, so many so that it was like, it's like a joke that like, is Taylor even paying for her own food nowadays? Because I just kept going on. Like it was like every night I was going on a first date with somebody.
What did you learn that, like, that's really good you did that actually. What did you learn about yourself?
Yeah.
And like what you actually were looking for in a man.
The thing that I found really interesting going on so many first dates was like, after you go on so many, it's like what you are saying and what the person is saying to you, like within the first hour of you meeting them is like truly to their core, the things that they value most, right? It's like thinking of these things that like I kept saying, like talking about my family and talking about being a twin and talking about my business, but like also like really once I registered that for myself of like, there's certain things that I say over and over again on first dates that are really important for me to like talk about, and that's what I value, so I need to listen to them because that's their values too. And it'll help me weed through people a little quicker.
How did you even know that at the time? That is so good.
Yeah.
That is so good. But that's something that you started catching
on to. Yeah, because eventually, I remember calling my mom being like, if I have to go on another first date, I swear. Like, I was just so over it. But also because the conversation sounded mundane and you just kind of repeat yourself after so much. And
but you were still, so Taylor, were you still at the time, were you like, when you're looking back, because you were 23, so was there a part of you, were you dating for still fun, or were you actually dating to find someone? Like, what was going on with you back then?
I think I was definitely dating to find somebody. I was not a...
Okay, because you were more intentional.
Yeah. And I feel like from the get-go I was, too. The part of me, and this is the thing that I tell my girlfriends all the time who are in long-term relationships, I was like, and they're thinking about breaking up with somebody or have a question about it, I'm like, does the idea of dating somebody, like going out and dating sound exciting to you?
No.
And if they say yes, and I'm like, that's your answer.
That's your answer.
And that was my answer too. I was like, when I was breaking up with my high school boyfriend, I was like, the idea of going out and going on dates with other people sounds really exciting to me.
Really?
And so I was ready. And it was always, I always went through with intention. Like
Yeah, you knew. Like, I'm not just dating to date.
Just
I
to
actually
date. Exactly.
truly am open and find somebody.
Yeah.
Because your vision of, what you wanted. So you were a woman that wanted to get married.
Yeah.
Well, what did that look like for you? Want to meet my man?
Yeah.
I want to like get married.
For
Did
sure.
you want to have kids? Not kids. I mean, what was your process there?
Yeah, definitely. I've always wanted to get married.
Okay.
Always wanted to have kids.
Okay.
I don't know if I was a huge dreamer in the fact that like that's the only thing I wanted.
Yeah.
But really finding somebody who was my equal and finding somebody who was just as ambitious and as driven as me, came from a really great family. It was definitely more of the like, what's the life that we could have like together versus like, I want the big wedding and I want the 4 kids and I want the blah, blah, blah. Right. It's always something I wanted, but obviously with the right person. So.
With the right person, right? Okay. Yeah. So you're dating. Okay. So so now you're saying a year dating, and you're not finding like really the right alignment.
Yeah.
And I know like you said, you had some horror stories and stuff like that. So what ends up happening for you? I mean, did you start like, okay, I'm kind of giving up hope, or were you still kind of like chugging along? Because
I still was chugging along.
You still were chugging along.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened? You're dating for a year.
Yeah.
And you're not meeting the right guys.
Yeah.
And you're, now you're kind of like joking about it. Now
For
you're
sure.
like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But you still have hope.
Yes.
Okay. So what happens? And you're still in the process of being an entrepreneur, your business, and growing that. So you would think that the person that you are looking for, like you said, you wanted the same type of values in that respect. Like, okay, this is where we're going. We're going to work hard. All that. Yeah. Okay. So how did you go from not meeting the right guy, and how you met your husband?
So our first date was actually I was going out with one of my girlfriends. It was a Thursday night, and I think we had Friday off of work. I don't know if it was a holiday or something like that. And I went out with one of my girlfriends, and I had matched them earlier that day or the day before, whatever. And he was kind of like, oh, I'm really busy until like a week and a half from now. What does your schedule look like then? And I'm like, okay, whatever. Like if you can't make time for me now, then whatever.
Yeah.
And so we just kept
this is the husband right now?
yeah.
Okay.
And so we kept texting, and I was like, I'm going out with one of my girlfriends tonight to this like little piano bar. And he was like, I really need to meet you. Can I come crash girls' night?
Oh.
And I was like, oh, okay, sure. I was like, it feels like if you, and this girlfriend of mine, I was like, if you can hang with her, you can hang with anybody. Because she's a toughie, but she's great.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. And so he came and crashed girls' night and just seamlessly kind of fit into our little night seamlessly. And then she ended up leaving. And so we could have some, time just to ourselves and kind of close up the night and do a nightcap and whatever. But the two things that really stuck out to me about him was one, he like weirdly like looks like my family. Like all the other guys I dated before him did not look like
complete.
Exactly. But like my family's full of like big, freckly, redheaded men, and that is my husband. I was like, we might need to do a genealogy test because you could be a cousin.
That's funny. Oh my goodness.
But also he was the same thing I love about him now. So even keel, so calm. He could talk to a wall. Like but he also just makes you feel so comfortable.
Okay.
And I think for him too, like we just sat there and shared like borderline our entire life stories. Like it was like what is left to learn about each other after our first date, because we just felt so comfortable, and it was great.
It was great.
It's
it is true. Like that you have that connection with someone when it's like literally just talking to your best friend.
Oh yeah.
Like you can leave that conversation and you can look at it and you can say, wow, on a scale of 1 to 10, how did that conversation go?
Right.
And when you're up at a 9 and a 10, even an 8 sometimes, that's like, okay, there's something here. So there was something here. What was his experience? Like when he met you, was he already a guy that's been in a long-term relationship? Was he more of a kind of dating a guy like you were just kind of dating guy, or not dating a guy, dating a woman.
Dating a woman,
just dating, or where was he at, when you came along?
Yeah, so he's 6 years older than me. So he had started dating a lot younger than me. So he had a lot more dating girlfriend experience than I did.
Yeah.
But he had been in a couple long-term relationships, had lived with a girl previously, but was kind of, same thing. He didn't think Arizona was going to be his forever home. He's from Seattle originally.
Okay.
But then spent 10 years in Washington, D.C. And then Arizona was just kind of supposed to be just like a pit stop for him to get his MBA, to get his master's, and then go on to wherever he was going to go back home to Seattle, whatever. And so he was like, dating people casually, but wasn't in a serious relationship for like 2-ish years before meeting me. And so, that's a good question. I don't know like what his intentions were. If he was just dating just to date.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's kind of maybe what it was like, because I met him halfway through his second year of his master's program. Okay. And I mean, he graduated and we were together and we picked up and moved to Washington, D.C. together across the country after just a few months of dating. So I don't think I was in his plans by any means, but
of course,
a happy accident.
Yeah, no, I don't think that one is. I think it was exactly meant to be. So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The right person will change it all.
For sure.
It will actually change it all. Yeah. It will put you in a totally different category than you were thinking before.
Totally.
Because that's why it is. It really matters who you choose.
That's it.
Okay, so you meet this guy. So now the first date is fantastic.
Yeah.
Everything's great.
Yeah.
What ends up happening? What do you guys start happening? You guys start dating?
Yeah.
You guys like boom, boom, boom?
Yeah. We started dating. Wow. He told me he loved me on the second date.
No. Oh, ladies, did you hear that? Oh my goodness. You're like, you do?
Yeah. There may have been some drinking involved, but drunk thoughts are sober words. Is that what a drunk word is?
Yeah.
And so he used to always deny it, but then he put it in his wedding vows. And so it's like, there it is, signed, sealed, delivered. And we found out that he got a job offer in DC 5 months after we started dating.
Okay, so you're dating, 5 months go by.
Yep, he gets the job offer in DC. And so I was a terrible girlfriend that day. I cried all day, and I called my mom. I was terrified to tell my parents because I had only lived here. And I was terrified to tell my parents, and I didn't know if I was moving with him, if we were breaking up. I had no idea what was going on.
You didn't know.
And my mom goes, you are being a terrible girlfriend right now. Wow. You need to be happy for him, and you guys will have a great life in DC.
Really?
And looking back, I remember asking my mom, I was like, why are we, like, you knew him, but like 5 months
why are you
nothing.
so confident about that?
And she's like, I had always wanted to live in a big city and never got the opportunity to because I had your sister when I was so young.
Okay.
And she's like, even if it doesn't work out, you still always have us. Yeah. And I think you'll really, really love just living somewhere else. She's like, I think it's a great growth opportunity for you. And then I remember being terrified to tell my dad. Okay. And my dad goes, you're stupid if you don't go.
Wow.
And I was like, well, shoot, okay.
That's
looks
amazing.
like I could not ask for more supportive parents because when I tell you I was shaking, telling them shaking.
Right.
And so, yeah, we picked up and moved. We moved 3 months after we got the job offer. So
but there must have been something also about the guy.
Oh, yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
I mean,
they loved him. They'd met his family by then.
Right. So there has to have been for your parents to be able to also give you that encouragement.
For sure.
They had to feel that warm and fuzzy with
that
him.
It was special.
You know,
exactly.
I mean, nobody knows anybody until some real time goes by.
Right.
But there had to have been something about it. This is a good guy.
Totally.
He's in love with my daughter.
Yes.
Because if they want to send you a few,
if they were questioning.
Yeah. So that's really good. That's really cool. Yeah. Okay. So then what happened?
So then we celebrate our 8th month anniversary on the road to DC. We moved to DC. Okay. He starts his job there. I started a digital marketing agency when we were there. Okay. I already had a small one when we were here, but really grew it when we were there. And we lived there together. And I think that really kind of accelerated our relationship. I mean, moving in together was my first time living with a significant other. You learn it was a very easy transition. Okay. Like I remember a ton of my girlfriends and my mom being like, moving in together is hard, getting married is hard. Yes. But it all felt very easy, very natural. But also I was moving to a place where I really knew one person. Yes. And so I relied on him a lot for everything. Right. And it's a lot of changes, like starting a business, moving away from my family. My nephews are like my pride and joy. My youngest nephew was 3 months old when I left. Okay. Like all of that was a new relationship. Yep. It was just navigating a lot. And I grew we spent almost 2 years there together. And I grew so much in those 2 years. And we grew so much in those 2 years where I left and I felt like we were an old married couple that had been together for 40 years because we really... we had to learn a lot about each other and grow together and find communication styles that worked for us and all that kind of stuff. Right. And I was really nervous going into it, but it was the easiest thing I'd ever done. It was. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because think about that again. All these moving factors that you just said, that's a lot of moving parts. A lot. Yeah. That's a lot. That's a lot of moving parts. And there had to been as time went by. And there, I'm just going to say this. Obviously, there's no perfect anything. No. I understand that. Yeah. You can have a great relationship and things happen and you got to work through things. And I do believe, even though you can have a good relationship, when things get hard is when you have those opportunities to learn each other, learn yourself. Yeah. And you guys were definitely doing a lot of that stuff really early on. Really early on. Right? Mm-hmm. And for you guys, how did you guys actually survive that, you think? I think finding communication styles that really worked for us. Yeah. I am, again, a very emotional person. So, my gut instinct is just to cry and then, I'll feel better. And he's like, no, we need to, he's like, I will not leave this couch until you figure out why you are crying. Really? And he was so patient with me. Okay. But also, we just kept fun at the center of our relationship. You did? Yeah, living in a big city with so much to do. He was the king. He planned every date night, fun weekend getaway trips, planned trips back home for me so that we can go see my family and still be a part of my nephew's lives when they were little. And he just really took charge so that all of this that felt so new and overwhelming to me, I could navigate my business and navigate friendships and figuring out how to live in a big city. And he really took on everything else to make sure that we could still have fun because I was so overwhelmed in the day-to-day. That's really important that you're saying that. Yeah. Because he truly was your best friend. Oh, yeah. 1,000%. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. And that's what it's about. It's literally marrying your best friend. Yeah. Even though life is going to happen, things can get hard. Right. But being in a relationship that you guys can actually have some fun, even when the hard stuff happens. Yeah. So he's teaching you how to okay, girlfriend. For sure. Loosen up here. We're going to be okay, even though a lot's going on. Yeah. So you navigate through that, right? Yeah. And at this time, were you guys considering getting married? Yeah, we definitely were. Okay. Yeah, we one of my first clients in DC with my digital marketing agency was a high-end jeweler. Okay. And so I was surrounded by engagement rings twice a week. No. So that was probably his worst nightmare, sending him pictures, being look at this one. Yeah. And so, we definitely talked about marriage in DC. I think he ordered my wedding ring. We got it. I designed it and he bought it, obviously. But my engagement ring, I think he ordered it right before we left DC. And then he proposed me a couple months later when we got back to Phoenix. Because one thing I'm always talking about is
it really does come down to, this is what I want women to hear,
Mm-hmm.
because of how you're talking today. It really, truly comes down to, it's not what people say.
Right.
It's not how people are talking. It comes down to their actual actions.
Mm-hmm.
Their follow-up.
Yeah.
They're making sure, you can rely on them.
Yeah.
Making sure, they communicate.
Yeah.
You don't ever have to second guess that, because it's going to, if you just allow yourself to trust that process, you're going to see it by yourself.
For sure.
And so as time was going by, you were noticing, oh my God, this. I mean, again, nobody's perfect. I get that.
Yeah.
But he is a man of his word.
1,000%.
He's a man that is actually communicating.
Yep.
He's a man of integrity, is what I'm noticing with your
Yep.
man. And that's when you know.
For sure.
That's when you know. Because you go back to your first relationship. And as time went by, you already say, okay, he can say this and this and this, right?
Mm-hmm.
He can say, oh, we're going to do this or this. But when the end of the day, why you left him is because his actions were like nothing. He wasn't showing you anything.
No. Mm-mm.
So there wasn't a reason for you. I mean, that's a real mature thing that you did, because like I said, a lot of us women, we don't really trust that.
Mm-hmm.
We think, oh, as time goes by, we can fix them, or as time goes by, we can change them. And I'm always like, listen, meet people where they're at, because people are going to show you, right? They're going to show you who they are. Mm-hmm. And usually in the beginning, and it doesn't really actually change. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, they're like, people show up their best self. Yeah. So I love how you said when you were dating and you were going and meeting new people, you can tell pretty quickly what they value. Right. How they're showing up. Mm-hmm. And that makes a big difference.
Makes a huge difference.
So you're with him and you're already saying to me, you already knew, okay, something's here with him. I know that this is my guy. Yeah. We're going through all this stuff. How did that play a part with you being the entrepreneur that you are? I know that you had that going on before. Yeah. But you now, being a jewelry maker, owning your own store. Totally. Where did he come to play in that?
Yeah. Yeah. So he and I have very opposite skill sets, which I think is huge, both in our marriage, but also in business, right? And even no matter who in the partnership is an entrepreneur, if one of you in a relationship as an entrepreneur, it takes both of you. So like if he was an entrepreneur, it would take part of me in order to make the business successful, and vice versa. So at first he was a great sounding board, right? Because with the digital marketing agency, he's like, I don't really know much about social. I don't know how to run a Google ad, but I'll listen to you. Yeah. And so really being a thought partner and helping me problem solve and navigate and having more work experience than I did, him being older, really, really helped me navigate tough decisions and tough conversations. But in the jewelry business now, I don't know if you've ever owned a product-based business.
No, I've never owned a product-based business.
It is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my entire life. Okay. And he comes at it with so much thoughtfulness and so much intention, is always the first to raise his hand when I need help overwhelmed packing orders or whatever it may be. But he comes from a finance background. Okay. And I am a creative through and through. I am dyslexic. I stay away from the numbers. Yeah. Could not be me.
Yeah. I totally.
And so he is my CFO. He does all my projections and has so much knowledge in, and has also educated himself a lot on like what running a product-based business looks like from a finance perspective, because he knows that that's where I get anxious. Right. And so he's been very thoughtful and very proactive about knowing what makes me anxious, one. Two, how to take that off my plate so like I don't have to worry about it and just help calm my nerves a little bit too. But also picking up where I am weak, which I think is
that's good.
Yeah, which has been incredible. I could not run the business without him. And I tell him all the time, I was like, eventually I think we would love to have the business be in a place where it can employ both of us and he can be the CFO. I mean, even the CEO. I'm like, I don't want to be a CEO.
No, that's a lot.
I want to sit here and chop chain and play with stones and you can do all the other stuff,
like the creative,
which he loves.
Exactly. All that sales, all that stuff.
Yes, exactly. And so he is literally the perfect yin to my yang. And but again, I'm going to bring it back to he keeps everything really fun. Like we go on work trips together and I'm like anxious and, running around like crazy, making sure everything's perfect. And he's like, I made us a dinner reservation here. We're going to go see this show.
You're going to be fine, hon. You're going to be fine, right? Here's going to be fine,
yes, babe. Exactly. Here's some cash. Go shopping, because he's like, you need to take care of yourself. He is, I wouldn't if I didn't have him. You know what I mean? It'd be business 24/7. I'm out here hustling, trying to work, trying to grow, whatever. And he is very thoughtful about his time.
Yep.
That he invests in the company to make sure that he's, doing his part and providing his expertise when we need it, but also makes me sure that I manage my time properly because he cares. You know what I mean? He's like, you can't run yourself into the ground. And if I need to be the one that books your IV appointment and calls the chiropractor saying, tell me my wife doesn't show up today because she needs to be there. Like
he does all those parts, those missing parts for you.
Exactly.
It's a lot of, like, I talk to a lot of women. Mm-hmm. And I talk to a lot of women that that's actually something that they dream of. They dream of, finding a partner, and not just finding a partner, like really being able to do a business with them.
For sure.
And I love how you are talking about, like, if you are going to be an entrepreneur, like, you can obviously be an entrepreneur if you're married and the husband doesn't have to be completely in the business. Right. But there is no way for this to succeed if you don't have support.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, that is so important because if you guys are completely on the opposite ends,
right?
And you and being a business owner, because I'm a business owner too. Totally. And my husband works with me too. So my husband also has a full-time job. Yeah. But as you saw him today, he plays all the parts. For sure. Like all the stuff that I'm not good at, to be honest with you. But if I did not have that, I also feel myself, it would be so much harder. So much harder. So, I wouldn't feel that I would be able to do what I'm actually doing if I didn't have a supportive partner. Yeah. Because that is really, really important, depending on whatever you want to do in your life. Just for you also being a supportive partner to him. Yeah. How do you feel that you play a part? Because, it seems like with him, he's been, so supportive and he's this and he's that. What does he need from you? Yeah. What have you noticed that he needs from you as a woman?
Yeah. I think that on the flip side, he also is sometimes maybe, I tell him all the time, like, maybe you're a little too good at prioritizing yourself. But, oh gosh, I don't even know how to answer that question.
How about this? Let me ask you a different way. Way. When it comes to, how like in relationships, we both play a part for each other, right? So in the relationship, what's been really helpful for you that you need for him is for him to be more supportive for you, for him to like bring the fun in you. Do you feel like for him, as a man, there's something that he's also needing from you that you probably provide for him? And it's interesting, you're probably not even seeing it now, but as I'm asking you this question, it's going to come to you. Yeah. Think about that.
Yeah, I think the part of my personality that he draws him out of his comfort zone a little bit, or something that he, I guess, has craved since then, is the risk-taking side of it. Ooh. He's played things very safe. Yeah. I feel like his whole life, not super safe, but, had like a very, went to college.
More structured.
Yes, always had a 9 to 5, was a teacher, had the pension, the 401k where I come in.
You keep
chaotic.
Spicy. Yes. No, they love it.
Spicy, chaotic, whatever you want to call
it. Fantastic. Fun, chill.
Fun. And on his toes. Every day is very different. And I think that's been an interesting side of our relationship to explore too, because he can be very regimented and very, loves to plan things out and have where I am just very much fly by the seat of my pants. And I am like not at all.
The EFG,
exactly. Spontaneous, all of that kind of stuff. Right. And so I think that's part of our relationship that's changed a lot, especially for his personality type. And, for me, I literally sometimes he's like, if you come to me with one more business idea today, I'm sleeping on the couch because I'm just.
He's like, wow.
I'm like, I have this idea, and he just sees dollar signs rolling in his eyes and whatever. But I think it's the risk-taking mentality, not being afraid to fail.
I love that. Yeah, you guys keep it actually fun with each other.
We do.
Do you know that? And I'm just gonna ask you this: have you ever heard of the love languages?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Did you guys ever do that test?
We didn't, but I definitely know what.
Okay, what do you think it is? And if you haven't done that test yet, I want you to tell me what you think it is. Okay. And then I want you tonight, when you have a chance with your man, and whoever's listening, you guys, this is a really great tool. Yeah. You can go online and you can just put the 5 love languages.
5 love
Okay, the
languages,
5 love languages, and it is going to tell you like how we feel loved.
Yeah.
So these are the 5 love languages, and you tell me what you think he is.
Yeah.
Okay. So there is acts of service.
Yep.
So that's when they're, do stuff helpful. And I'm just going to say right now, I'm acts of service.
Yeah.
So my husband's always like, well, I have a lot of work to do because I'm acts of service. Okay.
Yeah.
So I hope I get these right. There's acts of service. Yep. There is physical touch. And physical touch is not necessarily just,
Totally.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's not like this. Physical touch is like caressing.
For sure.
Hugging.
Totally.
Putting your hand on their shoulder. Okay.
Yeah.
Then there's gift giving.
Yep.
Which is people don't understand this one either. Gift giving is that you put in your time, in your heart, and your effort, and gifts are very special.
For sure.
Very meaningful. Right? Then there's quality time.
Yep.
Okay. So that's how they feel love, is just spending time. And then there's words of affirmation.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What would be your husband, you think?
My husband is definitely acts of service.
Acts of service.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And physical touch. I feel like he's kind of a combo of the two.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
So we always joke that everything's a group project.
Okay.
Because if he's doing something, he wants somebody else to help him with it. Most of the time it's me.
That's fantastic.
And I think it's because, one, it's a companionship too, but also it's like we're both pulling our weight.
Yeah.
But yeah, he loves acts of service, whether it's helping out around the house, whether it's a project he has to do, or just being thoughtful, being like, I'll pick your mom up from the airport. Okay. You stay home because you've had a busy day, whatever it is. And then physical touch. He is always asking for a back rub. Okay. He always wants, to be near and loved on.
And you hold, and you give him a hug
for sure.
And all that kind of stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
What would you think? And remember, please do that tonight.
Now
I'm really curious. And then message me. I want to know what you guys think. What would you think yours is?
Mine's gift giving.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. Speak on that. How he does that for you.
Yeah. So he, it's funny, and I'm sure a lot of people knows, but like the way that you show love and the way that you receive love are obviously very different. Yep. And so I think figuring that out in your partner, because at first he, was like, oh, I'll give you a back massage tonight. And I'm like, that's really kind, but that's not how I receive love. You know what I mean? So for him, he's like, I did this really thoughtful, cool, whatever thing for you that you should feel really loved, and it just wasn't enough for me. You know what I mean? And so like every time he goes to the grocery store, he wakes up way earlier than I do. I like love to sleep in 7:30, but he's like a 5 a.m.er. And so he'll go to the grocery store before I'm up, and there'll always be fresh. Like every Saturday morning, there's fresh flowers sitting on our coffee table. He'll pick up Starbucks for me. He is trained is a bad word, but like knows that my love language is
not. It's just how you feel love.
Exactly. And again, when you say gift giving, it's not like he's buying me a Louis Vuitton bag every month. It's the thoughtfulness. And so, and he is a very thoughtful human, but I think you can be thoughtful in different ways. And I need to, gift giving is mine. I need to see it. You know what I mean? I want the fresh flowers. Absolutely. I want the Starbucks when I wake up. I want whatever it may be. So he is,
So that's how you guys help each other, right? Yes. That's like, according to my husband. So when I've always done the test, I'm really high on acts of service. Yeah. Okay. But according to my husband, he said, you will love all of them.
I do.
He's like, what are you talking about, Charlene? He's like, you are acts of service. You're there. I'm like, really?
Yes,
he's like, And he's like, I'm just words of affirmation. I don't even get that much of that. Like, I'm easy. And you are like, I'm having to run around and do this and touch you and massage you at night and gift giving and communicate with you and spend time with you.
Tell you you're pretty.
Tell you pretty.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I joke with that all the time. Like, if you could just have flowers ready for me, give me a massage, tell me I'm pretty, we'll be good. I'm like, that's all of them.
Oh my goodness. No, serious to you guys. If you've never heard of that, the love language, do that with your partner. It's really cool. And you could do that with your kids too. Yeah. You could do that with the people you love, because it's really interesting to see how people feel loved and how they feel like, oh, okay, this person does care about me. This person, is into me, or whatever that is.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay. So then when it came to, how long have you guys been married?
Been married almost 3 years.
Oh,
together for 7, married for almost 3
years.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What have you noticed? So we've been talking about, obviously things are cool, things are great. He's a great guy. You're a great girl. What has been the biggest challenge for you two?
I still think it's communication. Okay. I think that, again, our communication styles just naturally growing up are were very different. Okay. And the way I communicated, the way that he communicated we did not understand. We were not talking the same language, if you will. So I think that's one of them. And also just the struggles of being an entrepreneur. I think him being way more involved in the business now than he was even when we were just engaged.
In the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a toll is a bad word for it, but it's definitely added a dynamic to the relationship that has been really tough. But again, I'm a big believer that a lot of things can be solved with proper communication.
Oh, I believe that so much.
So there's a lot of things that we do. I mean, we literally sat down today, and I'm also a people pleaser to my core, where he has no problem telling somebody straight on, like,
he's direct.
He's very direct. Where I am not. And so it's like finding that balance of like me wanting to like be polite and go, you know what I mean, brush things off, and then I blow up one day or whatever.
And it festers, right? Yeah.
Where he's very direct, and he's also very calm, cool, and collected, where sometimes it comes off harsh to me. And so even today we had a conversation where I'm like, that didn't sit super well with me. And he's like, yep, I understand. Let's sit down.
You communicated.
I communicated. Yes.
For you.
Exactly. But also the thing that I brought up was something that like I had been thinking about for a while. I didn't want to bring up because he was busy, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, we could have had a 2-minute conversation about this the first time it showed up in your mind a month and a half ago, and it would have been fine. But it builds up, whatever it may be. And so, yeah, I think still to this day, communication is one of those things that
is
huge. It's huge, and you will never stop learning.
Yeah, you won't stop learning. And you know what? And I'm loving that you're saying that, because even if you have this, cool relationship, you meet a cool person, you guys are great and everything like that, there are things that you need to do in a relationship to keep it thriving,
right? To
keep it successful. Like we actually don't really learn that. You saw your parents, but seeing your parents and then actually being in the relationship is completely different.
Very different.
Right? It's completely different.
Very different.
It's like, oh, wait a minute, now I got to apply it myself.
That's it, right?
Oh, now I got to communicate my needs and my wants.
Yeah.
How important is that? Because like that to me is how we actually get closer to one another.
For sure.
When you can communicate. Because if we're not being real, and it's not like really, if it's a muscle that you haven't developed yet, it's hard.
It's hard.
That vulnerability.
It is.
Because you just said you're kind of like a very emotional woman, stuff like that. Me too.
Yeah.
So I saw myself in the past, like, certain things will happen, and I would just have this like,
right,
and I would get really worked up, and I didn't know how to like just slow that down and just say, wait, calm down, Charlene. Just tell them how you feel,
right?
Because you don't know what you're gonna get from them, right? Like you have all these well, I don't know, they're not gonna understand, and that's where the arguments can come. So I want everyone to hear this. Even if you are with the right person and things are great, you have to learn how to communicate. And what have you learned about communicating? What have you learned about that?
I would say a couple things. First thing is start conversations early. Right? Me being someone who likes to let things fester. I'm like, oh, brush it off, it'll be fine.
It doesn't go away,
It's never worked out in my favor.
Okay, no, it doesn't. That's because you're saying that.
Yeah. That bringing up your wants and your needs are just as valuable as your partner's. And put yourself in their shoes too, right? Like if there's something that's bothering them, you'd want them to come and talk to you about it. And it comes down from an ego thing, right? You got to let the ego down, let yourself be vulnerable, talk about things as early as possible, find out communication styles that work well for your partner, because or else if you are, again, my husband being very direct, I don't receive feedback that way, right? I will get defensive, I will get moody, I will get, and it will
feelings.
Not be my feelings, yes.
It hurts, right?
It hurt. And it's not, we know it's not gonna be a productive conversation if he's too direct with me. So he has found out styles to work with me where I can sometimes be a little bit too fluffy. And he's like, I don't know what you're asking me to do. You need to be more direct. And so understanding that when it comes to communication, it is talking about how you feel, but this problem is only going to get solved if you can speak in a language that is beneficial to them too.
Right.
The other thing that we do, and again, my husband loves, it's the gift giving, training him to do all that kind of stuff. He's bought us these like different they're like coffee table card things.
Cool.
And they ask really hard questions, and you just pick it up, and we'll just be like sitting there having a glass of wine after work, whatever, and we'll pick one up, and it'll ask you something about like, if I passed away, how would you want our kids raised?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you passed away, how would you want our kids raised? Or whatever.
Wow,
and tough conversations like that. And it's been a cool experience for us too, because it's talking about hard conversations that you probably wouldn't talk about.
Yeah.
But learning, different parts of each other, our relationship, and kind of getting that communication muscle flexing and working, even when there's not something to necessarily argue or discuss about.
Right.
But just having that open, truth, vulnerable communication. Yeah.
And being vulnerable and telling your truth.
Yeah.
And not being afraid
for sure
to be able to be vulnerable like that and talk.
Yeah.
Because don't you feel like, again, you can meet the right guy, ladies. You can have, all that. But relationships, just like anything else, they take effort.
Yeah.
They take time. Yeah. They take growth.
For sure.
And a lot of times, like, we as just humans in general, we grow, right? We change. Mm-hmm. Sometimes people don't. But for the most part, hopefully, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. Like I always say, when someone always says, "Why you changed?" I'm always like, "Thank you."
Thank you.
Because I'm you're growing, you're learning, and putting that effort into the relationship.
For sure.
And not just settling and not just saying, "Oh, this is just how it is. This is as good as it gets." No, it actually can get better. Yeah. Absolutely better. Oh my goodness. Okay. What are you two looking forward to the most? What's life like with him right now?
Life is great. It's, I think, always an adventure. We travel like crazy. Mm-hmm. Our schedules are always packed. We are in definitely a big growth stage right now with the business, which has been really scary, and we are learning a lot about each other and our strengths and weaknesses and our capacities right now. And I think having a business that really, I work full-time in it. He works part-time in it, and he's got a full-time job outside of that. But also like letting other people into our business, which is also letting other people into our relationship because we work so closely and it's been a really interesting dynamic. We would like kids in the near-ish future. I just turned 30 in March, and he's like, I want to be done having kids by the time I'm 40. He's 36, and I was like, well,
you're young. You're good.
We got time.
But
adding that dynamic into it, definitely something that we're looking forward to. But we are spending a lot of our time and energy and mental capacity in the business right now, which is, it's great, and it's been fun, and again, still learning a ton about each other.
You're learning about each other. You're learning about business.
For sure.
Because you're growing and your stuff like that. Yeah. So what would you say? Let me ask you this. So what would you say, like, for people that are listening today and they are single?
Yeah.
And women are single, and they also feel like, you know what? Well, I haven't met a guy like that yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What advice would you give them? Because I've always believed in, like, don't ever give up hope on love.
Yeah.
And if, you're a single woman, and let's say you are successful already, but you're really looking for love.
Yeah.
What advice would you give them?
I would say let your guard down. I don't think that you can find a true partner if you don't let your hair down a little bit and really show who you are from the get-go. And I think that some women, I know it in, some of my friends too, where they're, again, so sick of the first dates and feel like they have to have it all put together and whatever before they go on a date. And I think the more true and authentic you are to yourself, the easier it will be to find a partner. But also on the flip side, I think that giving people chances, because I fell in love with my husband after the first date, but I think now with just the accessibility to people, whether it's through dating apps or whatever, you can find one thing that you don't love about somebody. It's like, oh, on to the next one. But I think really you're doing yourself a disservice by not investing
a little more time
into finding.
That's really good. Because you know what? I say this too, like, honestly, just like us women, sometimes everyone's like, well, the first impression means everything. Not necessarily sometimes. So. Yeah. Because a lot of times also men are nervous.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? They're like, I'm going out with this lady. and they're nervous. How am I showing up? Is she going to think I'm cool? Is she going to think I'm a creep? Do I open the doors? Do I not open the doors? Like, there's a lot of expectations right now. And so sometimes I'm like, you know what? That's why I love that you had that experience with the dating. I want everyone to hear this. Yeah. It's important to date, to get to know people,
Yeah.
to give it that opportunity, because sometimes you will go and you can meet a guy and he might be your guy, but you don't know. I'm not saying if you're already on a few dates and you can just completely tell, something's off. Okay, then something's off, then move on.
Yeah.
Move on, right? Like, trust that.
Yeah.
But even if you had a little something with him, but you're like, wow, that was weird. But it wasn't bad. But you're like, I don't know about that. Give him a second chance, ladies, because by the second time, if you can say to yourself, okay, this was definitely different than the first time. So I love that you said, give someone an opportunity.
Right.
Like, don't just cut it off so quickly.
Yeah.
Unless he shows up with no teeth and no hair.
For sure.
Run. Run. You can't change that. But if you are single, and what else advice would you give, like, ladies that are looking for their partner? Because what I loved how you really knew what you wanted. What else would you say?
I would say don't let your core values waver. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes, especially in my first relationship, it was like, maybe he'll change for me. Well, maybe we can do this. Well, maybe I'll be the breadwinner and everything will be fine and whatever. But I knew at the core, like, what I wanted in a man and what I wanted in a husband was somebody more like my father, who could provide and worked really hard and had ambition and could still keep things fun and had this great outlook on life. And that is what really, what I would have been missing this whole time if I still was with, my high school boyfriend and didn't go out and try something new and, date and, find my perfect match. I think that I would have missed out a lot of life. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Good for you. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wasn't that fantastic? Oh, that was such a great story. First of all, if people are listening to you right now and they're like, oh my God, I just love her, because they're going to fall in love with you.
Oh my gosh.
How can they get in your world? Because I know that I want you to talk a little bit about what you do and your jewelry. Yeah. Because I was like, wow, amazing. She designs jewelry. I remember asking her on our pre-interview, I'm like, what do you mean? You're like, what do I mean? Like, I design it, I put it together. Jewelry, yes. So where can they find you, hon?
Yes. So you can find us on Instagram.
Okay.
Rad and Ray. So it's RAD period AND period RAE is our Instagram handle. radandray.com. Ray is spelled RAE. My personal Instagram is Hey Taylor Ray, which is RAE as well. And then we also have a showroom. If you're local to Arizona, we've got a showroom on Scottsdale Road in Shea that's open on Fridays and Saturdays. So you can come see us there.
Fantastic. Yeah. Oh, fantastic. You guys follow her. Check out her jewelry. Do you have a website or anything like that?
We do. Yep. radandray.com.
That's the one you were talking about.
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Hold on. I just want to say something right now. I loved this conversation I had with you. No, I really... Thank you so much. Like, this was such a great conversation. This is what the show is all about.
Yeah.
Is, finding your person, realizing that, love, even when you meet the right guy, it takes some time, it takes some effort. You got to put some, skin in the game a little bit there, right? So it's not all fairy tales all the time.
For sure.
But it can be amazing.
It can be, yeah.
And I just want to say, hold on, let me just go ahead and... Woo!
My favorite noise.
My favorite noise, right? Here you go, sweetheart. I'm going to go here. And I just want to say cheers to great love.
Cheers to great love.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a wrap. Wow. What a great love story. How Taylor followed her gut and left a relationship that wasn't aligned with her values and goals. She set off to meet the man of her dreams and now is married happily ever after with her best friend for life. All because she was true to herself and followed her intuition. Wow, what a beautiful love story. If you're loving these podcasts and these incredible conversations, please hit the subscribe button and leave a 5-star review. Don't miss an episode, because each week I'll be bringing on guests and experts who will share their knowledge about love, dating, and relationships so you can apply it into your own life. I'll see you next week. And until then, cheers to great love.